Winchburgh was first mentioned in 1189, and it lies on a very old road that connects Stirling Castle, Linlithgow Palace and Edinburgh Castle. This is the royal route that is on the side of the number 38 bus. Let's look at our own history. In 1314, after the Battle of Bannockburn, the English camped here overnight before they escaped back to England. Old Cathy Church at the back of the old landfill site has walls that date back to 1400. Niddrie Castle was built in the early 1500s, and Mary Queen of Scots stayed here overnight in 1568 after escaping from captivity. And Duntarvie Castle was built towards the end of the 1500s. Not much happened between then and 1800 in Winchburgh. It was like Sleepy Hollow, a quiet agricultural village. But then there was developments. This is a picture of Winchburgh from the air before the new housing. The canal arrived in 1822, then the railway and station in 1842. So we had a main road, a canal and a station. Lots of transport links, but actually only 150 villagers. The brickworks was opened in 1887 using the blue clay extracted from a pit that is now the pond. The primary school opened in 1890. 1902 was a big year for Winchburgh. The oil works opened. 5 shops in the main street were built. The tally-ho was completed. Let's have a look at the oil works. Huge chimneys, big works, right beside the Miners' Rows. The Miners' Rows were started in 1903 and finished in 1910. They were very high-tech at the time, with flushing toilets and running water. The council housing in the 1940s was built at Millgate and Niddrie View. These houses had big gardens for growing vegetables to make the villagers self-sustainable. More housing was built in the 1950s and 1960s before the Tippett Now's Barrett Estate was built in the 1970s. This Barrett Estate contains some of the very first timber-framed houses in Scotland. The new developments around the village started 3 or 4 years ago. Here are some photographs of Old Winchburgh. This is the blacksmiths on the north side of the main street. The shops that are here now are the Royal Dynasty Carryout, Lawson's the butchers and the pharmacy. This is us looking east along the main street, with the co-op on the right. The Star and Garter pub on the left was burnt down, and behind it is Haig's the baker's. Beside the telegraph pole is the old Bank of Scotland building, long since demolished. That's where the garage is now. Let's look to the future. Here's the master plan of the village. The existing village is in pink. And then here is the proposed housing to the west, the north and the east. And the new town centre, which is being built. The new town centre will have retail units and affordable housing and other housing. So far, about 320 houses have been built, but there's another 3,000 to go. That will change the village, giving us new opportunities. These are exciting times for the village.
20-year project. It's significant growth for the village. 3,500 houses, new town centre, new railway station, new schools, new community facilities, open space. Massive project in the context of what Winchburgh is, and it will take it into the 21st century.
Winchburgh's quite fortunate in having an excellent butcher. We have good fish. The Scotland's been there for forever. However, that whole main street bit is currently tired looking. People have invested where they can. However, compared to what will be along the road, literally 200 yards along the road will be lovely new buildings, and it's the shabbiness as currently is will be 10 times worse when that new facility's there, and it's not very far away really. I mean, it's running towards us, this lovely new town centre. So it's how can we actually do something about the businesses who may not be able to afford to shift into the new retail park, but how do we make that main street from one end of the village to the other, because it's a very clear pathway for everybody at the moment.
I think there's definitely a contrast between what's there as it stands, which can be hundreds of years old, and what's coming, which will be 21st century.
Yeah.
What Winchburgh Development Limited has done as part of its planning permission has given the council, through legal agreements, significant amounts of money for different purposes, specifically for different purposes. So, for example, there is a town centre improvements fund that the council now has a pot full of money that it still has to decide how it's going to spend, but it could be used, it's specifically there for the benefit of the existing village, so the existing high street and other streets as well. So there could be opportunity there to smarten up shop fronts. There could be an opportunity there for environmental improvements like pavement replacement, pavement repair, soft landscaping, hard landscaping. So that money has been specifically required of the developer by the planning process and is now with the council able to be spent.
What will the new changes mean to us children?
What will happen really is that as part of the expansion of Winchburgh, there will be new schools built in the future and there will be improvements made to existing schools. So your school has had some new shiny classrooms added to it, hasn't it? Yeah? There will be new primary schools built and there will be a new secondary school. So you will go to primary school and secondary school.
Are there going to be any play parks?
Definitely. As part of the new development, there's going to be different types of play park. So there's going to be what are called local play parks or neighbourhood play parks. And they're going to go in, there's going to be quite a few of them, and they're going to go in at different times during the housing development. And there is going to also be a big town park where the existing clay pit is, just beside the railway. And that will go in at a later phase, a later time in the development, but there are definitely going to be play parks. So there's going to be plenty of space to run about, there's going to be pitches to play on, and there's going to be play equipment to play on as well. Yes.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Gillian Archibald. I've stayed in Winchburgh for the majority of my many years. I live with my family in Abercorn Place, and I am surrounded by my wider family, also within the village. I'm a mum, obviously. I've got children at the local schools. They're involved in quite a lot of clubs, and I also help at different clubs that they're involved in. So I had a lot of local knowledge about what was going on in the village, and there was actually lots going on. But I actually realised that there wasn't a central hub for everybody to find out what was happening within the village, unless you were passing the local notice board, which, as a busy mum of two, you didn't always have time to stop and look at. So back in April last year, I set up the Winchburgh Village Facebook group, just to try and pull together all the information about what was going on in the village and to give organisations and businesses a chance to advertise on there. Since April last year, we've amassed nearly 1,700 members, and it's a hub of information and exchanges for local people, and it's a great resource for local people and visitors to the area.
Do you know anything about Robert the Bruce?
Yeah, can I talk about him?
Robert the Bruce. And Robert the Bruce, you know that house, that field over for the church up at there?
Yeah.
Well, Robert the Bruce and William Wallace, have you heard about William Wallace? Well, these owned all that land way back. In that area where you are, that Bing, that used to be, they say, football fields. Winchburgh Violet played there. You know the tip? Because there were football fields all over at Winchburgh. Here, anything where you could play football. But I wasn't much older than you, and now and again, the Germans used to come along in a jeep. A smart soldier was an officer type, and he used to come, they'd maybe needed something for the other farm prisoners to go out and work on the farm, potatoes and things like that. And of course we got off the school, and the Germans were at one side, and we were at the other. And when the gaffer wasn't about in the bush, we used to throw tatties at Monday. Yes, because I left the school on Friday and I started working on the Monday.
And what age did you leave school at, Mr. Petty?
14.
14, boys and girls,
Wow.
Mr. Petty left school. So that would be now, is that third year at high school?
Just coming out of
At
third year, wouldn't you? The end of third year, yeah.
S3, can you imagine, boys and girls? Working since S3.
But I was just at the day I was leaving. A lot of the boys had got jobs on the farm and all like that.
Right.
And I said to you, what you got, Petty? And I'm standing thinking, he says, you go up and see Mr. Haig.
Right.
And that was the bakers.
Ah,
You know, across from the old post office, that
Yes.
garage is up there. Well, I got a job there in the bakery. I was there for 30 years, making wedding
30
cakes.
years,
Yeah,
wow.
And things like that. But the Germans used to come along. The Germans that were captured at sent to White Quarry, they were quite happy they were away from
they were away from all.
and they used to come and work out on the fields.
Right.
And regular, they used to, a German soldier and an officer, they used to come along in the jeep
Right.
to the bakery,
Right.
and they'd walk in and they'd click their heels. Good morning, Mr. Petty. Good morning.
Hi, my name's Emma. I'm a resident in Winchburgh, and I've been involved for over the last year trying to pull together a steering group to set up the Development Trust. We're now at the point where that has happened, and it's been a bit of a roller coaster of a year, but in many good ways. Within the next few days, there is going to be a letterbox drop of questionnaires, and the front page of the questionnaire will look something like this, and this is all the information that you need to read ahead of completing it. On this front page there will be a link. If you are able to access the questionnaire online, please fill it in online. It makes the job at the end of this survey period a lot easier for us and our team of volunteers. Now I'm just going to hand over to Gillian, and she's going to give you a bit more information about where and when you need to complete this information and what you have to then do with it.
So just to really reiterate what Emma's said, there's been a lot of hard work done in the community with working with schools and groups so far. This part is now very important that everybody comes on board and fills out this questionnaire. Now we're asking that the questionnaire is completed by 12 noon on Thursday the 2nd of March, and the completed surveys can be sent into the health centre, the community centre, there's a couple of boxes in there. It can also be put through the letterbox at number 44 Main Street, which is next to Streets Ahead. Thank you.
Thanks.
Pete Nisbet, Winchburgh Community Council, please complete your questionnaire as soon as possible and return it to the addresses on the leaflet.